Hello, welcome to a Q&A. I was going to film a Pandora video this week, but unfortunately I've run out of time due to feeling a bit rough. I'm okay, don't worry. I've had kind of really bad hay fever and also, let's call it gastric distress and leave it at that. And yeah, I've just run out of time and I'm feeling rough. So I thought I'd do a Q&A instead because you've all been leaving such lovely comments lately and asking questions, and I thought I'd answer you all directly, and I can go into a bit more detail than I otherwise would in a comment section. So let's get stuck in. Pumpkin91 Full says, have you ever thought to buy a Renault Dauphine? I have. Every now and then I see one in the classifieds, and they're always rather well priced because famously they're not quite as good as earlier Renaults and they're not quite as good as later Renaults, but they are a really interesting car and they are a really interesting historic car, and I like the way that they look. There's a guy around here that has one that's kind of lowered and it's got a roof rack and a visor, and it's kind of it's very much what you would do with a Beetle, but it's a Dauphine, and I think that's really cool. And so if I had one, I'd kind of be tempted to do it like that, like a cruising type car, not something that you drive around too too fast or anything, not a rally car or anything like that. I think a Dauphine's one of those cars when you kind of cruise with your family and listen to music and that kind of thing. But yeah, I really like them. If I went, I don't think I'd ever go looking for one, but if one found me, I'd definitely have one. And an Undine's quite a cool thing. An Undine's the luxury version of the Dauphine, and they're quite rare. They've got a big gold bonnet, big gold bonnet badge. Quite an ostentatious, adornment for a car that looks like a bar of soap. But they do look cool, and I do like them, even though they might not be the greatest thing in the world to drive. They don't have to be the greatest thing in the world to drive just to cruise around and enjoy as that kind of car. So yeah, the luxury version makes sense for that. Right, Great is the World says, maybe you could do a video interviewing your dad on how to think about engineering one's project cars, and maybe you could throw in some stuff about his engineering past. Right, my dad can't talk about past projects as far as engineering is concerned because of non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that, and doing government work and not being able to talk about that, obviously. But as far as project cars and stuff like that, a lot of my engineering education has come from my dad and doing stuff with my dad, and so you kind of get it through me. The thing with doing an interview with my dad is that he's a very quiet guy. You may have noticed in the previous video where we do the sills, he's very quiet. He's very when you first meet him, he's quite a discreet person and quite that way. And so I don't know whether that would come across well on camera, and obviously I don't want to put my dad on camera if it's not going to come across right, because that's not who he is. He's actually like really outgoing and he's really outspoken, but when you first meet him, he's quite a quiet guy until you get to know him. So yeah, I don't know whether that would make the best video and show my dad kind of the way that he really is, and so I don't know. Scott, I think it's Scott Vickers. The thing is, chop your name off. I'm sorry. I love the idea. Perhaps you could do a little. Talking about Great is the World's comment. Perhaps you could do a little show about what people have in your life, or what people you have in your life, next door folks and stuff like that, neighbours. And how you feel about your beautiful projects. At one point you mentioned your neighbours and happy to have you, blah blah blah. Right, so he's basically saying, would I show some of the local area and talk to some of my neighbours and stuff like that? No. Every now and then someone asks this, and the answer is always no, unless there's a car show locally or something like that. I'll go to that car show. Like I could go to the car show in which is kind of local to me. I also go to my friend's Cars and Coffee because he's my friend, and we once filmed a video there, French Cars and French Coffee. And then I might talk to a couple of my friends if it's one of their cars or something like that. But as far as
my house where I live and my vicinity? No, because it's my house and I'm quite private, and my home life kind of needs to be my home life. One of the things that a lot of people do when they start YouTube, and I did exactly this, and it's a mistake, is to share too much of their life and too much of where they live and what goes on in their life. Because you need your home life to be your home life. You need some separation. And that's why I deleted a bunch of my early videos from the channel. Because sometimes it's nice just to have some life for yourself. And so some of my friendships and some of those, you know, neighbourly relationships and stuff like that, it's nice just to keep separate from YouTube. As much as I enjoy YouTube, and the person who I am is actually the person I am in real life. You know, person on YouTube isn't this totally different person. I'm not a character, so to speak. It's just me. But yeah, I've learned that with YouTube you need some kind of work-life separation. Otherwise, it's really easy for YouTube to just consume your entire life and for everything to become a project and everything to become a video. And I need separation. That's why a lot of people burn out, because of that separation, and I don't want that to happen. Simon Holiday says, I would have loved to have overheard the father-son conversation over the dinner table afterwards, given you're laughing about your dad's finger. Right. My dad chopped his fingertip off. And he's been having some rest because of that. He chopped his fingertip off, slicing carrots to make kimchi. My mum, and I often help her and stuff, but my mum's big into making her own sauerkraut and kimchi and kind of home fermenting veg. It's something, because we share a little kind of, not a market garden, because only for our personal use, but we share a garden that feeds both families, basically, and we club together, we do the work together and all the planting and stuff, and that basically subsidises us and gives us almost free food. Now, my dad was chopping carrots in a carrot slicer, and basically went like that, and chopped basically a thick carrot slice off his index finger. I think it's his index finger. To be honest, we've been laughing about it since it happened. The reason my parents are my neighbours is because we get on like a house on fire. I'm really lucky to have a really close family, and we were laughing about it because the first thing that my mum did, I was filming a video, my mum runs in and goes, "Your dad's chopped off his finger off." He hasn't chopped off his finger off, just a thick slice off the tip. He didn't hit the bone. But the first thing that my mum did is run in to get me to sort it out. I have considerable experience chopping parts of my body off and sticking myself back together again. So I helped my mum dress my dad's finger, and it's alright, it's fine. But we've been laughing about it since it happened. Anytime he does anything, we always go, "Yeah, mind your fingers," and stuff like that. And what was funny is, we were using the laptop one day and the trackpad wouldn't work for his finger because his fingerprint hasn't grown back yet. So yeah, we've been laughing about it ever since, and taking the mick. Ian Gibson says, you've moved the front suspension forwards. I'm curious on your plan to get the wheels to line up in the arches, as there seems to be no room for lengthening the front of the car. Right. Under no circumstances would I lengthen Pandora at all. I just wouldn't do it. This car is the length that it is. I bought a small car because I wanted a small car. I wanted a GTM. The reason for the lengthening is, if you can see the bottom wishbone, I can't get it because it's over there, it's all bolted up, but the bottom wishbone goes forward on an MX-5, and the bottom wishbone on a Mini comes backwards. It's a straight arm and then a back, and on an MX-5 it's kind of a straight arm and then a forward, if that makes sense. So it's almost the same mounting points, it just moves the hub forwards, if you will, away from me. And it's only by a little bit, it's not by an absolute ton, don't worry. The wheels will still be within the arches, although that's kind of within the arches is
not exactly as it's going to be, because we are going to need to put arches on this car, so there will be some finagling with wheel arches later on. I'll go into that. I think there's another comment that mentions arches, so I'll talk about it more then. But yeah, the lengthening of the front has happened because of the way that MX-5 suspension is, and because it uses an L-shaped lower wishbone, much like a Mini does. A Mini has a straight one and an angled one that's at kind of 45 degrees. This is the same, but it's the other way. And so using very similar mounting points, it moves itself forward. And it just puts a wheel actually in the corner rather than being optimized for being front wheel drive. But yeah, it still falls within the arch. It's not, the front arches on this are really big. The front clamshell of Pandora has much bigger arches than the back of Pandora. I think it might be from another car at some point, and it has been painted. So it could be an early front end that's had a later front end grafted to it. I have no idea. But yeah, that's for the lengthening, and it is within the arches, although there will be some massaging. Right. Del UK says, excellent progress. Thanks, my dad, for helping with the sills. Will it require one or some of the rear tubes to bolt in to it to allow the engine to be removed easily, or does the engine drop out downwards? The engine will drop out downwards. This decision was taken because I managed to get the fancy engine mounts. I've got some Hasport engine mounts, which will take some modifying to get to work on this. But the way the Hasport mounts work is they're round with a hole in the centre, and there's a bracket, so they naturally kind of lend themselves to being dropped out. And so yeah, what we'll do is we'll be able to drop the engine out onto a pallet just like you do a Porsche or something like that. That is one of the concerns with rear engine cars. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. It's not going to be lifted out through the top. The hole isn't big enough. It's going to go out through the bottom. And like I say, the engine mounts help with that. And he says, lots of ads popping up, so I hope you're starting to get a bit of money into the kitty, right? So it's not often that I don't like talking about money in life in general, and I don't really talk about money on the channel because I don't think it doesn't matter, really. I'm very tight. I try and spend as little money as possible just in life in general. I'm terrible with it. I tend to buy the best quality things I can and then make them last as long as possible, as you have all noticed with my ripped jeans. But as far as adverts are concerned, I don't know why I'm pointing over there, but as far as adverts are concerned, YouTube has started double stacking adverts. You'll have seen probably at the beginning of this video, there may have been 2 adverts together. That's not under my control. Sometimes it's 1 advert, sometimes it's 2 adverts. That's YouTube's doing. What I can control is where the adverts fall in the video and how many adverts are in that video. Now, YouTube, if I remove all the adverts from the video completely, YouTube just hides the video. So it has to have adverts in it because YouTube's making money from it. So it has to have some adverts in it, whether I want to put them or not. And I try and do any video that's under 10 minutes, which there aren't many. Again, that's a YouTube thing. YouTube prefers longer videos. I tried to do shorter videos at the beginning of this year, January, February, when it was snowing. Because I didn't, if my internet went down, I didn't know, I'm still on mobile phone internet. That's how I load my videos. That's why the quality of my videos isn't in 4K and stuff like that, because I'm using my phone to upload them. But I kept the videos shorter at the beginning of the year, and my YouTube views and everything, all my analytics just dropped through the floor. And as much as I do these videos for the fun of doing them and for the pleasure of doing them, I also want them to be seen by as many people as possible and for people to enjoy them. And basically, January, February is one of the worst months on YouTube that I've had, and the reason is I was uploading kind of, 10 to 13.5 minute videos, something like that, just in case it snowed and it didn't go over well. But
anything under 10 minutes, I tend not to put adverts in. But in fact, I did a 10-minute video not so long since, just to tell people that videos are on a Wednesday now, and it did terribly, and my analytics dropped through the floor again. I would have been better not making that video at all, as far as kind of YouTube is concerned. I made it simply for you lot. But I tend to try and keep adverts sensible. I do my best. If I put a ton of adverts in, the videos would do better. But obviously you're supporting this channel and you're supporting me with the adverts. So people who use ad blocker, please turn them off when you watch my videos. It really helps. And I try not to take the mick with people. I try not to take the mick with adverts. Sorry, it's a bit of a sensitive subject, and every YouTube creator will have their own answers for you as far as adverts and stuff. I try not to take the mick and try and make some money off them. Obviously, I'm only a small channel, and so, you know, I'm not a media company, and so all my revenue comes from adverts, and so I need your support in that case. I'm trying not to take the mick, but I also hate it when I watch a YouTube video and it's full of adverts and they're on every 5 seconds. It drives me nuts. So I do understand people who get sick of adverts. Hopefully, again, the sort of adverts you get are chosen by YouTube, not me, and so yeah, that's another thing. The adverts that you get for your videos are chosen by YouTube and not me, and they're chosen based on the sort of videos that you enjoy and you watch. Just like the videos that are recommended to you. Next one, Zarko Vision says, I've had several Renault 4Ls, Renault 4s, in my life and still have one, and always thought about buying a 4CV, but at club meetings the 4CV always arrives on a trailer and they put it in a meadow and then don't move it during the meeting, which always scared me off to buy a 4CV, as I don't want to have a big matchbox car that's just for showing off. I know how you feel on that. I want to drive it. So the 4CV, is it really a usable car for driving? Are they reliable? Are they easy to repair as a Renault 4? By the way, I would like to see 2 comparisons of a 2CV and a Renault 4, and of course a 4CV and a Renault 4. I have a friend with a Renault 4, and I've been waiting to do a review on his car, but unfortunately due to the COVID situation, I was supposed to drive it the week before lockdown, and a couple of weeks before lockdown, and then it had a couple of issues, and so I couldn't drive it, and then lockdown happened, and then yeah, I will probably be driving it in the future though. So 4CVs, I love the 4CV. It's absolutely fantastic little car, and they tend to be very how shall I put this, resistant to rust. It's that good plans pond metal, just like the 50s and early 60s 2CVs. Now, they are really good. I really enjoyed driving my friend Olivier's 4CV. It's a really good little car. I think the lack of steering feel may have been more his car than all 4CVs, and I really liked the big wheel. I think the tyres that it was on were Firestones. I don't like Firestone tyres as far as 2CVs. And they were the same sort of tyres on the 4CV. On Michelin's, I think it would have been a lot better. I think the tyre profile lends itself much better to that kind of suspension, where it has a large range of articulation like a 2CV or a swing axle. Now, the one thing that let it down is the 3-speed gearbox. A lot of people put the later Dauphine gearboxes in that are 4-speed, I think, and I think you can even fit a 5-speed if you're a bit creative. The later 4CVs had the Dauphine engine in, and that's what I go for as far as a driver. People here in France do drive them. I do see them about every now and then. In fact, when I went to buy Pandora, I saw one on the Paris ring road and felt very proud of them, because with the 3-speed, The earlier cars, you're talking about 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers an hour maximum. It's slower than Jolene, although it is torquey. So it's a better car in traffic, and it has a much better turning circle. I really like the way they drive. I really like them, and really enjoy them. And I wouldn't think twice about owning one, actually. If I found a later one with a bit of patina, oh yes, yes please. I really like them. Like I say, the whole not driving them thing, I understand where you're coming from there. There's a lot of people who don't drive the 2CVs as well, and it drives me insane. And one of the reasons why in my 2CV videos I'm a little bit more adventurous with the way that I drive by 2CV is because I want to prove that you can. I want to prove that you can drive these cars. I want to prove that you can use these cars, which is why I daily my car. And a lot of 2CV people get upset at me for that. But the reason why I'm happy to drive by 2CV off-road and really use it is I want to prove that it can be used like that. And yes, I would use a 4CV like that in a flash. I thought about buying a Renault 4 van when I was looking at Jolene. And the thing that put me off was rust and at the time the lack of availability of panels. I think that's since been sorted out, but I wouldn't be scared at all with a 4CV. They seem to be a lot better at resisting rust. That doesn't mean they're rust proof, but they seem to be a lot better at resisting rust than the 4L. So I may be even tempted over a 4L if you can get away with the boot space. Definitely, I'd have one in a flash. Spegru at Stylus Guy on Twitter says, that looks better. I think he's talking about the what do you call it, the lowest sill. I always wondered about extending the wheel arches on Pandora all the way around. Maybe some GRP filler pieces, right? GRP is glass reinforced plastic, otherwise known as fiberglass. I call it GRP as well. It's the habit of being around boats for so long, and I know you have a Gilbert Invader, which is such a cool car. Right. As you can see, the rear suspension, it's not perfectly set up to how it's going to be. I can't do that till my wheel bearings get here. But as you can see, the rear suspension on Pandora sticks out quite a long way. I am going to need some wheel arches, and I'm going to make those wheel arches myself. I would never stick a bit of what they refer to it as a GRP filler piece. I'd never stick a GRP filler piece in anything. You may have noticed when I do work, when I do stuff, I tend to do things as well as I can do them, and if I can do it in a manner that no one else has done it, or I can do it in a manner that is extremely difficult to do, I tend to go that route because of just who I am. I like to see it as a challenge to myself. I wouldn't stick a GRP filler piece in anything. I will be making my own rear and front arches because we're going to be running some chunky tyres, and like I said, my track width is considerably wider than the old Mini track width. And I've got some really cool ideas for that, and you're just going to have to wait and see. But yeah, I do it all myself. I know there are people out there who buy wheel arches and who buy... If I could do, I might be tempted to. But the fact that this is a channel where I show you how to do cool stuff in a workshop that doesn't have all the tools in the world makes me very tempted to make my own. And so I will most likely be making my own. Right. Alex James often comments under videos with a train fact. I like his weekly train facts. Right. He says, I know I talk about them a lot, and it's unrelated to anything, but questions, right? Steam, diesel, or electric locomotives, right? Steam is awesome, instant torque, just awesomeness. You can use it multiple times, and steam engines are a work of art. I adore steam. However, that new hydrogen train is cool. I read an article a few weeks ago about hydrogen train, and I really like the idea of that. I'm really excited for hydrogen and the future of hydrogen. I'm not a massive fan of batteries. Yeah, mining of it being dirty, human rights stuff, all of that, short battery lives, all the rest of it. Not a big fan of batteries. But hydrogen, super cool. Partly because I live in a place that has a lot of people who use oil fire central heating, which I don't. And oil fire central heating is a huge problem as far as the environment's concerned, just like cruise ships. And I like the idea that someone could just have a big sphere of hydrogen in the garden, and they could get the hydrogen tank filled up once or twice a year, and then run all of their electricity for their entire house off grid, supported by a couple of solar panels maybe, and heat the house that way. Because I have 21 solar panels on my roof, and they're good. They are really good. And that runs my house, this workshop, and my mum and dad's house. We did have a couple of days in the middle of winter when I might make a full video on the solar panels and all of that, but we did have a couple of days in winter when we kind of had to restrict our use of electricity because of snow and stuff like that. And if I lived any further north, like if I lived in England or Germany, I'd need a lot more than 21 solar panels. And my solar panels, like, there's a video I'm doing my solar panels. There's a lot of solar panels. And so if I lived further in Northern Europe, or if I lived in Detroit or Canada or anything, I think that wouldn't be enough. Like, I know for a fact that 21 solar panels wouldn't be enough to run 2 houses and a workshop. So the idea of kind of a big hydrogen sphere to work as like a backup generator or something like that, or just for your home central heating, or the stuff that uses a lot of electricity, I really love that idea. And I like the idea of hydrogen tech. It's cool. And the fact that you're only kind of, not pollution, but your only exhaust is water, which you can use to water your garden with. It's so cool. Right. Next question. What's your favourite locomotive? Okay, I often get asked questions like this on Twitter. There's a lot of trained people on Twitter, right? It would be probably is it called the A1 Mallard? It's the world's fastest steam train that Ettore Bugatti helped do the aerodynamics on. Super cool train. It's utterly gorgeous. I'm not a big train guy, I must admit. My favourite thing about cars and bicycles as well. I'm a big, I used to mountain bike for years. I raced mountain bikes. I love road bikes as well. I have many bikes. I may one day have to do a video on my bikes. But anyway, if people are interested, I don't know. But my favourite thing about those is the freedom. And the thing of kind of, it's one of the reasons I don't necessarily love electric cars, but I love electric motorbikes, is the freedom of it and the ability to just get on it and go. And I love that. I love freedom, and I love the ability to just have a Sunday drive, and you can't do that with a train, unfortunately. Although they do have their uses and they do have their purposes, and for that they are awesome. And I love it when people get the opportunity and funding to do really cool things with trains, like levitating trains, hydrogen trains, and all of that kind of stuff. And the A1 Pacific is a train just like the TGV. It's a train that existed to beat a speed record, and that's awesome. Right. Number 3, have I ever done anything with model railways? No. Modelling in general and toy cars, die-cast cars, model cars and stuff like that, not really. When I was a kid, I broke my shoulder and I got into doing airfix. And I did some airfix stuff, and I've also done some Warhammer stuff as well. But believe it or not, I'm not very good with I wasn't when I was a kid, good with the fiddly bits. But I've never really got into model making in general, mostly because I've never had a place to do it. But it doesn't mean I don't look down on people who do modelling, but I'd rather have the real thing or something that's like a bike or something like that than kind of a model kit. I like stuff that I can use and not just look at. If I had a model kit that I could, like a kit car, that I could actually, use and have a purpose for afterwards. I'm very utilitarian in that way, that I like stuff that has a purpose. And so if something doesn't have a purpose, I don't want it anywhere near me. And anything that I have has to be nice, has to be... I'm a bit obsessive. I have an obsession with cashmere. Not that you know when I'm working on cars and stuff, but I love things that feel nice, and I love things that serve a purpose. And if I have something, it has to be nice and it has to serve a purpose, and that's what I'd rather spend my money on. I'm not really one for ornamentation, shall we say. It has to be beautiful and serve a purpose. Ornamentation that works is beautiful, which is why one of the things I love about cars. Right. I hope that's a satisfactory answer. Right. Shane DeBarra has two questions for me. Anyway, he says, is there any particular quirky French cars you'd like to own? Maybe a little Panhard or 4CV like you tested last year? That's the first question, right? I really like 4CVs. I would have one if one found me. I don't know whether I'd go out looking for one, although I have looked for one from time to time. I love Panhards. I really want to drive one. Never driven one. I have a friend who has an all-aluminium Panhard. I'd love to have a go in one. And I love the Panhard Junior as well. Panhard Junior is like if you've never seen one, it's like a Sprite. It's a little roadster. It's tiny. It's as big as Pandora, but it's front-wheel drive, soft top, two-seater. Super cute looking thing. I saw one a couple of years ago at a car show. Lost my mind. Love them. They're now worth. They weren't always worth a fortune, but they are now worth an absolute fortune. Really want to drive one. Super cool little car. Super cool little bit of history. Now, French cars. Yes, there's a bunch of French cars that I love. I love Amel cars, for example, which is a pre-war French car. I adore pre-war French cars. Post-war French cars, there's some really cool stuff. So yes, there's a bunch of French cars that I like. There's a bunch of cars from all over the world that I like though as well. Like I love, Pandora. I love lightweight British sports cars. I love British luxury cars. There are some German cars that I like. Although it's a shorter list than French cars, definitely. But and there's a bunch of Japanese cars that I like as well, and American cars. There's some cool American cars as well. And I want to drive everything. I'll never say no to driving a car, because I always think someone who says no and who isn't open to new experiences is you're not good at what you do. You're not a good reviewer if you'll say no. So I'll drive anything. I really want to drive a Tatra, for example. That's on my list. I have a short list of cars that I really want to drive, and I have an even shorter list of cars that I really want to own. Any time that I drive anything, it really changes that list of things that I want to own, for both better and worse. And driving a car and not loving it tells you as much about your own taste and your own kind of love of cars as much as driving something that you love. So yeah, there's a bunch of French cars that I love, pre-war cars, Amel cars, stuff like that. But obviously, like pre-war Bugattis, awesome. And little mid-engine racy cars, like there's a lot of lightweight French cars as well. Renault Spider I want to drive. Alpine A110s, all Alpines. The CS, which is a cool car that no one ever talks about. The CS is like an Alpine, but it used a Simca engine. Speaking of Simcas, Simca Rally, that's a cool car. Really want to drive them. But there's a bunch of stuff that I really love. And there's some stuff that I like to own and some stuff that I just like to drive. Some cars are better when they're owned by other people. And there's a bunch of cars that I don't like, that I'm really happy people love and take care of, and that I don't own. But I don't look down on anybody for owning anything. If you're passionate about a car, whether I like it or not, that doesn't really matter because it's not my car. What is your opinion on other ubiquitous French classics like the Peugeot 203, the Renault Juva Quarte, or Juva Quatre?
They are almost unknown outside of France, but in my opinion, the 203 Estate is one of the most beautiful designs ever. I love the 203 Estate as well. Super cool car. 203 Estate, 203 van. There's a bunch of really cool French pre-war vans and stuff like that. There's a lot that I don't talk about on this channel because I can't show them. And you're right, a lot of people don't know a lot about cars like that. And I've done list videos before suggesting unusual cars for people. I did a video on like 3 of the coolest car companies that you've never heard of. And that got okay views, but not anything to write home about. And so I haven't done one since. But if there is a chance to show a really cool car that a lot of people don't know about outside of France, I'll always do it, basically. So yeah, car shows and me driving stuff is the best place to look for that. Although, like I said, because of the world's happenings, I'm just checking to see if I've missed any. Because of the world's happenings, I haven't driven anything recently. Shane says, what drew you to Limousin as opposed to other parts of France? So, I'm from the north of England where it rains constantly. It's gorgeous and beautifully green, but it rains constantly. Then I lived in Spain where it's the complete opposite. It's flipping roasting, it never rains, it's super dusty, and it's beautiful but not in the same way, and you don't get proper seasons. And so moving to France, I wanted somewhere where I could have proper seasons. Not a brutal winter that, you know, lasted forever. Not somewhere where it rained tons and tons and tons, but somewhere where I got a really kind of mixed climate. And in Limousin, there are a bunch of microclimates. And if you find yourself a nice little microclimate like where I am, I'm 10 degrees warmer than a lot of neighbouring towns and stuff like that. And it's a really nice little place. But also, I can have space, I can afford to have a nice garden, I can afford to have my nice little barn with the little bit of money that I had, and I was able to do that without getting in a bunch of debt. House prices here have since risen a lot because a lot of people from Paris have now decided that they don't want to live in Paris anymore thanks to the health crisis. So yeah, house prices here have since skyrocketed, but there's still nobody here because it is one of the lowest density places in France, which is another reason I really wanted space when I lived here, which is something that I didn't have in Spain. I had no space. When I was living in a boat, it was nice, but you still got people walking past making, you know, comments about your boat and about your life. and like one day I was having a shower and I heard a noise. I thought I was being robbed. I ran up onto my back deck and there were 2 people sat on my back deck having the photo taken. Like, leave. So yeah, I like my privacy. I like my space. They were funny. They were like, we didn't think you'd mind. And I'm like, yeah, okay, how about I come over to your house and have a picnic in your front garden? Anyway, yeah, I like my space. I like my quiet. I like being in a really agricultural community because people don't mind me working on my cars. People don't mind me making noise and grinding and working because they're doing it too. Everyone's here has a really nice mentality. I do miss being by the sea, and one day maybe in the future I might buy myself like a little hut by the beach so I can go surfing on long weekends and stuff like that. But it's really nice and central here in Limousin, and I can be everywhere where I want to be in not much time. I'm 3.5 hours from Paris. I'm maybe a bit more. I'm 3.5 hours to the sea. I'm 3.5 hours to the Alps. I'm a bit more than that, about half a day's drive to the south coast and the Pyrenees. I'm in a really good place. I'm not far from the Nürburgring. I'm not far from Angoulême, which is where they do a lot of historics racing. And of course, a lot of the French tracks are very, very local. So it's a really nice place to be because I'm in the middle of nowhere, but at the same time, I'm a long way from everywhere. It's a long way to an airport though. When I picked my friend Jamie up from the airport, he put it best. It took him longer
to get from the airport to the house, and not just because he was in a 2CV before people write comments, but it took him longer to get from the airport to my house than it did to take him from his house to the airport and then fly to France. And when we're in the car, he goes, "Flipping heck, the middle of nowhere is a long way away, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah." But for those who don't know, Limousin is smack bang in the middle of France. It's like the true centre of France. Not Centre, which is above me, which is a bit flat and windy. Is in fact, it's incredibly flat and windy. Is Centre, and the roads suck. A lot of the roads in Centre, they're all like straight village, straight village, straight village, and you've always got a truck behind you and a truck in front of you. It's nice enough, but I don't want to live there. That's another thing. France has massively diverse climates, and I wanted a nice climate as well. Not too hot, not too cold, that kind of thing. And here I get beautiful seasons. So yeah. I'm knackered. I've only sat here and spoken because I feel really rough. I hope you've enjoyed this video. There's progress happening with Pandora, and like I said, there is a little series coming along with the Diane. I haven't filmed much with the Diane because it's not my car, but I think my dad's going to shove me the Diane and get me to do some work on it, because the Diane videos do really well, people really like them, and so there'll be a few weeks of Diane videos for a while, and then we'll come back to this, which is good because it gives me a chance to work on the land, it gives me a chance to work on the house, and also it gives me a chance to hunt down parts, because hunting down parts for this car takes a bit of time, and deliveries and corona and stuff like that are obviously a thing. But it gives me a chance to kind of make plans for this, as well as having a little bit of a break for it, which is good. I don't think it's good for you when you just constantly plug on one thing all the time. It's good. What do they say? A change is as good as a rest. So, on that note, if you want to support the channel, make sure you're still subscribed. Weirdly, YouTube has been going around unsubscribing people from people's channels, apparently. And so make sure, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure that you're subscribed. There isn't much happening with the house, as I talked about in previous videos. For all fans of the barn, that's why I need to do some Diane videos and kind of take a break from Pandora and work on the house a bit. Because Pandora videos take a lot longer than, say, 2CV videos or anything else. Simply because there's a lot of figuring out to do, a lot of working out. Whereas when it's the Diane, like, I know what I'm doing. With the 2CV, I know what I'm doing with the Diane. So they take a lot less time to... There's a lot of working out with a Pandora video that you don't see. People are like, "Oh my god, you knew how to make that sill really well, didn't you?" No. There's a lot of figuring out how to make a sill first before I actually make it. And like I said, that takes a lot of time. So, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I say, if you want to ask questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. I always skim the comments and read through and make sure, if there's any questions, I always screenshot them. So this or any video, if you have a question to ask, don't be scared to ask. There are no stupid questions. And I'll never make fun of someone for asking a question that they may otherwise be afraid to ask. Just like the Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where you can always come and share your projects. I created it for people to share their photos of their cars, create their, show their progress of their projects and stuff like that, and to ask questions in an environment where no one's going to take the mick. Because I think that's often lacking online. And it's a nice, friendly place, and I'm really proud of that. So thank you to everyone who's a part of that community, and to everyone who joins, and everyone who posts pictures and asks questions and stuff. So thank you all for watching. My social media, including the Facebook group, is all down there, and there's other videos and playlists and stuff dotted around the screen, no doubt. Okay, thank you all for watching. Please be awesome for each other, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.